So I want us to do a small exercise, okay? Put up your hand, and please be truthful. Put up your hand if you took a shower this morning. It's the most participation I've ever got from any presentation. Okay, and if you're lying, I'm sure your neighbor has noticed. Okay, second question. Put up your hand if you are willing to take a cold shower for 365 days straight. Okay. There's no money involved. Well, let's face it, living in Kenya, we've all been accustomed to taking a cold shower at least once or twice in our lives. Maybe you grew up in the village, maybe you attended a boarding school, but more often than not, it's been screwed over by our also lovely Kenya Power and Lighting Company. #KPLC. Well, if you're like me, taking a cold shower feels like an all-out attack on your well-being, and I'm sure it is for you as well. You see, there are two ways of taking a cold shower. The first involves you just sticking in a hand, or maybe a leg, or even just a finger, and hoping to God that your body convinces your mind that it's not so dreadful, right? Well, that's a coward's route. The route I'm more interested in involves you rushing in like a madman. No thoughts, no reasoning, just action. But unfortunately, I didn't come here to speak to you about the importance of showering. I think we've all done that this morning, we know how to do that. I came here to speak to you about the power of discomfort, of seeking it, embracing it. Because I truly believe that wherein lies the power to embrace discomfort lies the same power that you need to attack any stressor in the world. So growing up, yeah, that's the reaction I wanted. Growing up, I was the last born and only son of my family, and some would say, also known as my sisters, that I was a very well taken care of child. Like a fragile egg, I was moved from place to place and kept out of harm's way. I was on a healthy dose of cod liver oil, Farmer's Choice products, and the occasional Disney movie. My mother, who's been a pharmacist for the last 25 years, ensured I was on cold medication the moment I let out a tiny sneeze. I sneezed and she looked. You would say that I was brought up to be a very risk-averse individual, right? Well, if you ask my parents, they would tell you something completely different. They would tell you that I actually took a huge risk. They would tell you that 3 years ago, I joined a startup team with very little capital, with no product, but just ambition and a dream. And that 3 years later, we're serving over 25,000 customers across the country. Thank you. I'm giving you this context because just a year prior to making this big decision, I was presented with the job of a lifetime, the dream company that I've always wanted to work for. If there was ever a time I was overtly religious, it's when I heard about this job. I prayed and prayed and prayed. It came with the money, it came with the travel, the glitz, the glamour, the title, and everything in between. I applied for the job in weeks and weeks of interviews, case studies, and exams. Later, I got the job. Whoop-de-doo. But as the great saint says, with great power comes great, and oh, it did come with that great responsibility. Challenge after challenge that brought a level of discomfort in my heart that I'd never experienced before. I lost this job. Well, I stood up, dusted off the shame and embarrassment that I felt, and I decided to take note of what I'd learned from this experience. And I'd learned two very important things. I'd learned that I'm afraid of discomfort. And the second thing I learned was that I buckled under the weight of it. Learning these things allowed me to see that I have to be very cognizant of what I need to change about my perspective of discomfort to move forward in my life, in my career. And to be honest, I feel that every single person in this room and around the world, we share these same feelings, these worries, these insecurities that hold us back in life. Identify yours, because it's important for the rest of this talk. So a couple of months later, I was lucky enough to get another job. And my workmate at the time came forward with an idea to go bungee jumping. And if you know anything about bungee jumping, it's not a piece of cake. It's not a walk in the park. After some initial hesitation, I said, what the heck, let's go up and do it. We got into the van, drove up to the venue, and the instructor began his briefing. Right after we signed our release forms, he asked the question, who would like to go first? And before he could even finish his sentence, my hand was up. There I stood, like a lion among sheep, feeling proud and better than everyone else around me. But deep down inside, I felt like David about to face 3 Goliaths. Well, they strapped me into the harness, the one that makes you look like you're wearing a tiny diaper. I climbed a 60-meter high structure, and as I climbed, I thought to myself, this actually isn't that bad. I don't know what people are talking about. And I got to the top, and they strapped the big rope that was going to keep me from dying to my feet. They threw it over the edge. I felt the weight of it as it dropped. And still I thought, hey, kumbe you're a badass. It's not so bad. Well, that was until they opened the gate. And they said, now you jump. All the thoughts of, why did I pay for this? Africans don't do such things, came rushing in. But to my dismay, everyone on the ground that could see me, like you can see me now, began a countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7. I had to jump, right? I'm the lion among sheep. And so I did. And I'm so glad I jumped, because that feeling of free falling cannot be traded for anything in the world. I loved the feeling so much that the next time I jumped, I did it out of a plane. Now, guys, the first 5 seconds of skydiving have to be the most uncomfortable 5 seconds of your life. And I know that sounds like a major exaggeration, but trust me on this. There I sat on some guy's lap, my instructor, tightly strapped to his bosom as we rose through the clouds, the same clouds we were willingly about to drop through. And I was excited. The same thoughts that I had as I climbed that structure when I bungee jumped came rushing in, like, guy, this isn't so bad. But that was until we sat at the edge of the door, and the instructor held us up by the edges of the door. I hung there like a rag doll, vulnerable but ready for anything. Before I could gather any of my courage, we were falling. And falling, we were. Those first 5 seconds felt like 5 hours. But eventually, I could change my perspective of the fall into one in which I was flying. No matter how cheesy that sounds, that's what I did. I know I don't seem very comfortable from that picture, but eventually I could enjoy the view from the top. You see, the 3 reasons that you should embrace or seek discomfort. The first is to transform. The second is to attract. And the third is to inspire. To transform is what I've been talking about, to change yourself, your mind and your ways of thinking that you've built over the years. There's a great saying that I live by, a quote that I love, and it's, the best view after the hardest climb. It's beautiful, right? The best view comes after the hardest climb. And what this means for me is that perseverance and consistent action ultimately lead to triumph. On February 21st of this year, 2019, at exactly 6:58 a.m., I put those words to the test. After 4 long days of fighting altitude sickness and the urge to quit, I summited the highest point in Africa, Mount Kilimanjaro. It was, yeah, you can clap, thanks. It was a feat that I'd always wanted to do, and climbing that mountain did more for me than I ever thought it would. It allowed me to see myself for what I'm actually capable of doing. It allowed me to see that there's so many mountaintops in my life that are actually within reach, and all I have to do is keep climbing. The second reason is to attract growth, the growth that you get from discomfort. Maybe it's starting that business that you've had in your mind for years and years and years. Maybe it's asking that girl or girl out that you saw today, maybe, out on a date. It's you realizing that on the other side of that discomfort is growth. And guess what? It attracts more. Like a domino effect, one moment of transformation leads to another and another and another. In October of last year, 2018, I decided to run my first half marathon. It's a goal that I had on my bucket list for many years, but I decided no more procrastination. 2018 was the year. After 2 hours of pain and discomfort, I crossed that finish line, and needless to say, everyone on my Instagram knew about it that day. The feeling of accomplishment was so immense, and I wanted so much more. So just 2 months later, with absolutely zero experience in open ocean swimming, I competed in the Dyani Triathlon, which began with a 750-meter swim through the Indian Ocean. As you can tell from that picture, I look like James Bond, but I did not feel like one James Bond. I did not win that race, but I did not drown, and that's what we need to go home with. I loved the feeling of that accomplishment so much, and I really enjoyed the growth that I got from it, that it was just 2 months later when I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. When you allow yourself to say yes to the discomfort, you allow yourself to see the strength, the power that you have within you to attack bigger and bigger challenges in your life. The last and final reason that you should seek discomfort is to inspire. About 3 years ago, I decided to take my fitness a lot more seriously, take care of myself a lot better. No more doing 8-minute ab workouts in my room because I'm going to the beach in December. This journey started with 3 or 4 evening workouts and quickly turned to 5 or 6 5 a.m. workouts. I was hooked, and I wanted to inspire others. Something led me to begin an initiative that I call Strength Kenya. We told stories, and we continue to tell stories of people just like myself who have gotten off the couch and broken a sweat, seeking and fighting the discomfort to better themselves, to inspire others to take that same next step. After a couple of months, dozens and dozens of stories of Kenyans who were doing just that came in. And on the other side of the spectrum, dozens and dozens of testimonials from people who were inspired to do that as well came in. But we felt there could be more that we could do to impact people's lives. So for the last 2 years, every single Saturday, I, with the help of other amazing fitness trainers, have led a free 1-hour workout at the Nairobi Arboretum Park. These workouts are welcome to anyone, no matter your fitness level, and the results have been amazing. Over 80 community workouts later, the Strength Kenya community has impacted over 100 Kenyans and counting. Once you welcome discomfort in your life and realize the growth you get from it, the people around you will take notice. It might not be intentional, but trust me, someone somewhere is looking at you and knowing that they can make the same step. How many of us have these fears and insecurities that are holding us back in life? Are you afraid of the fear of change? Is it the embarrassment of going back to where it all started once you don't achieve what you wanted to do? Stop. Instead, lean into it, step into it. Attack it with everything you've got, not just a finger to feel how cold or uncomfortable it is. Because once you do, you'll realize that you have so much transformation, you'll attract so much growth, and you'll inspire the world around you. Ladies and gentlemen, find your discomfort, and you'll find yourself. Thank you.